You have something, an audience that people want to hear what you have to say. It's word of mouth marketing on steroids.
Absolutely.
That's what you're doing on YouTube.
Yep. What's up, influencers? I'm Benji here, and welcome to another episode, another interview where we're helping you guys build your influence, income, and impact with online videos. And I have a special guest, Jeremy Johnson. Thank you so much for being on the show again.
Always good to be with you, Benji.
And if you guys don't know, we did interview Jeremy not too long ago. And Jeremy, today, we're gonna be talking about how to land brand sponsorships, how to negotiate the highest rates, and things to consider if you're a new channel or you're an established channel. So let's get right into it. Can you tell people a little bit about how you got into YouTube, a little bit about the history of your legal background, and how that's helped you protect your value and work with brands for sponsorships on your YouTube channel?
I came out of law school and I was a trial attorney, civil attorney. And I found YouTube, saw the family vloggers. I was watching your family and the Shaytards
I met
and
you
other
very
people,
early on, yeah.
and decided to try it out. And I've loved it. We hit 1 million subscribers.
High five.
I know.
And, 1 million, that's amazing.
And
you'll get the gold button.
I know. And we just passed 700 million views. So I love that, but also just started a law firm to help YouTubers with the legal parts because there's so much in this negotiating with brand deals piece of it.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about Jeremy is when he first got into it, when I first met you at like literally 2,000, 5,000 subscribers, he was an attorney, practicing attorney, and a big part of getting sponsorships isn't just getting the deal, but like all the legal stuff behind it, like the contract. So we're talking about how like it's not enough to just get the deal, but like how do you protect your value? How do you make sure that you're reading your contracts and understand what's really in the deal itself? Without further ado, we're gonna get right into actually getting brand sponsorships. And my #1 tip is very basic, but you've got to have great content and an audience. You know, a lot of people, especially if you're just starting out, you're just assuming, you know, I'll start a channel, I'll be able to work with brands. Obviously you need views, but you know, you have to ask yourself, what kind of content are you putting out there in the world, right? What kind of audience are you building? And that's why it's so basic, but keep in mind, you need quality content and you need a specific type of niche audience to be able to get your first brands, because we're gonna talk a little bit more about this, but you have to ask yourself, what is it the brand wants from your content? Why would they wanna pay you to sponsor your video to get their product, service, or brand onto your channel?
Understanding the interest of all the players in a brand deal is essential. And so having a niche, we represent YouTubers who are focused on shooting guns, you know? And so the gun companies love to come and work with them, even if they have a smaller audience. And so if you have a very broad audience, that may be one of the first biggest mistakes you're making. And so be thinking about that narrower audience, that narrower group that you can attract. And then when you go to the brands, if you understand what they want, you can be very attractive and convincing. They have a marketing budget that they're using. They're spending money right now. So being able to differentiate what you're doing and what you can do for them on YouTube compared to what they may be spending. I mean, if people are spending money for radio ads or TV ads, those are advertisements that people are wanting to avoid. And the audiences might not be very specific. You have something, an audience that people want to hear what you have to say. It's word of mouth marketing on steroids. That's what you're doing on YouTube. And if you can, in an educated and excited way, teach that to them, if they're not already in the space, you can begin getting those deals. So practicing that, articulating that's vital.
And don't get us wrong, you know, we both have channels with huge audiences. We get plenty of views to be able to get those big brand opportunities. The reason we're suggesting focus on a small group or a niche type of audience to get your first deals is because when you're first starting out, you're not gonna just automatically have 1 million views on your videos, right? And we both know from our experiences helping other creators, as well as myself. I've got a couple other smaller channels, including this one, where I was able to land a sponsorship early on in my career because the audience was very focused, right? Just to give you an example, if you're into gardening, right? But specifically organic gardening, and all your viewers are looking to you for organic tips and tricks on how to garden in your backyard, right? Even more specific. And potential organic soil company sees your channel and sees that your audience, which might not be very big, but they're all into organic gardening, there's a higher chance that they're going to sponsor your channel early on than just like a general vlog channel that has nothing to do. Maybe you're interested in gardening, but you're talking about all kinds of different things. So having that specific focus is important for your first opportunities if you're just starting out.
The other thing too you need to understand is that brands or agencies, they're going to be a lot more interested in the kind of engagement. So one of the things I tell brands when I'm working with them is, not only are we getting these many views, but we're getting 50,000 participants in our polls each day. And look at the comments that we're getting. And so when you can integrate that into the deal, you're sweetening it in a way that's like, these people are going to be connecting with it. Because when you're on online video and you're selling that, people can actually click on your link and they can engage about it. So, I mean, I did a deal with Hasbro, and we had these 4 games that we were playing, these video games, and I did a poll of which game would you be most excited to play. That was valuable research for them. I mean, I was giving them 50,000 people watching which of these games was most exciting to them. That's a valuable add-on.
Yeah, and what we're trying to say at the end of the day, before we get into actual tips on how to land them, is, think about the brands and the businesses and what they're gonna get out of it. Of course, this is like a win-win situation. You're obviously gonna get sponsored, so you're gonna continue to be able to pay for your lifestyle, right? To be able to pay for future productions, more ideas, trips, whatever that might be. Vice versa, the brand or the business, they're gonna be able to sell their product, they're gonna be able to sell their service, get exposure for their brand. So that's really important to keep in mind for the second tip, which is how to actually get your brand sponsorships. Now, my first suggestion, whether you're new or a seasoned YouTuber, is go out there and call up some brands, right? There's something about emailing, consistently following up, meeting people in the industry, of course, getting the numbers of different people in agencies, and just hustling. When I first got into YouTube, I created what's called the wedding series for my wife and I. We've got a vlog channel. We've been doing this for about 10 years. And that wedding series was like the first thing that launched us into the vlogging world. And what it was a 10-episode series about Judy and I getting prepared for a big day, the wedding day. And there was the dress fitting, cake eating, we had engagement photo shoot, engagement party, all the different things that both the groom and the bride are interested in planning. And then we ended with the final episode. I, for months, literally called every single brand that Judy wanted to work with that I did research on. This is during a time where influencer marketing wasn't a standard yet, right? Like it was still fairly new. And I was able to pay for most of all my wedding because of those first brand sponsorships.
That's cool.
And that was so early on. I can tell you this, if I did that now, I would have a lot more success. I would have got a lot more yeses. And that's the last little tip I want to add there is, when you go out there to call, don't expect everybody's going to say yes. You're going to have to call a lot of brands, a lot of businesses, and you're going to get a lot of no's, but it's a few yeses that you need to get the best opportunities.
And then one of the other huge things you got to consider is, what are you worth?
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're worth, I mean, you think of if you were doing a negotiation for a car or a house, if you have no idea what the value of that car or house is, how can you negotiate? You have no leverage, no power. And so there's several tools that can help you to know what you're worth. And the biggest thing is asking around. I mean, that's one of the things. If you've never done deals and you don't know, you need to start talking to people. You can talk to consultants. I mean, that's one of the huge things. It's been worth it to me to reach out to people like Benji and say, what is the value for this? Because they see so many more deals and so many more things. With our law firm, being an attorney, handling a lot of deals, people reach out to us for that kind of stuff too. And then having the friendships within the, coming to conferences.
Absolutely.
And building those relationships with friendships and beginning those discussions to say, what is it worth at this point, at this price point? And so as you begin to get a sense of that, you can more effectively negotiate. You have to have that.
And even if you can't show up to events, and maybe you're just getting started so you don't have any relationships, I will say this, it's hard to have like digital communication about these things because it's not something you tend to like want to email, right? Other people, especially if you're not friends with them. But there's tools like Social Blue Book, right? I think we can both agree they're not always accurate, right? But it's a great starting point. There's lots, and we'll put that information down below. But a Social Blue Book is basically a place you can go to find out what your channel is worth. And they're going to be doing it for other platforms as well, like Instagram. So
I used it all along our beginning because we were growing fast enough that I didn't know how to keep up with the value. So it was the perfect starting point. And I really love the guys. There is one more thing that I want to say to the early creators. One other thing that you should know is that an early space to go to for some of those smaller deals is like Relio, is FameBit, Social Blue Book. They have a marketplace for some of those smaller deals to begin experimenting. So that's just another reference of a place to go to.
Yeah, I love them too. And again, they're a great reference for just generally anybody. But the reason I say they're not always right is because, again, if you start a channel, it's very niche and your audience is very focused. Of course, at the beginning, it's going to be small audience. But if it grows enormously, what I found is the higher quality content you have, the more engaged your audience is, and the more focused your content on your channel is going to be, the higher the value of a potential sponsorship will be. Me, who negotiates for my wife and I and other channels that we're connected to, I can negotiate a much higher rates because I understand our value is very high because of those things. Very engaged audience, high quality content, and most important, very focused niche audience. So do you want to talk about that a little bit to like understand, you know, the third point, which is how much are you worth?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes easier and easier the more you do it because you're getting offers. But even then, a lot of people who are getting offers are still underselling themselves.
Absolutely.
I mean, a big part of this is that you have to understand the role of the agency. I don't think we can have a discussion about brand deals without that piece of it. Because as you're getting bigger as a YouTuber, most of the deals being done are through an agency. And they're the middleman, or sometimes I refer to them as the matchmakers. The agencies are the ones that take a brand and connect them with the YouTuber. And they're going to have a value that they've kind of come up with for you. And again, understanding their role is going to help you. Their goal is to try to get as much money from a brand and to try to get as little from to pay you. And so you have to understand that and be willing to push back so that you can help them reach their deliverables, which is views or a level of engagement to the brand. And so going in with that knowledge base and understanding is a big deal.
And there's different levels of agencies. There's like agencies that specifically work with those brands, and those brands might exclusively work with them. There's agencies sometimes like in between other agencies, right? I've worked on deals where literally I was working with an agency thinking they were communicating with a brand when really they were communicating with another agency that was working with a brand. How many different layers there are, because every single layer is taking a little piece of that pie, right?
A big piece of that pie.
A big piece of that pie, oftentimes. So that's what we're talking about, and that's why I would love to hear what Jeremy thinks about protecting your value. Of course, you want to know what your value is, but I think even more importantly, you need to have the guts to be able to say no to a deal if it doesn't work out, or be able to sell the opportunity on your channel to get the best value out of those opportunities.
The really hard thing for newer YouTubers as they gain success is that, I mean, say that you're going to turn down a $10,000 deal. As you're getting bigger, it's like, how could I ever say no to that? But if you're worth 20, it would be like selling a house for $100,000 that's worth $300,000. You would never do that, but YouTubers are doing that all the time. And so when I'm talking about these agencies, some of them are trying to get 50, 60, 70% of the deal for themselves when they're selling to you. I think a big piece of this is having the guts and the sophistication to ask more questions too. You know, if an agency comes to you and says, you're only worth $5,000 for this or $2,000 or whatever, say, you know, what are you measuring that on? Because as I look at Social Blue Book, or, you know, as I've done other deals, you know, what we have found is our rate is $10,000 or whatever it may be. And as you hold to your guns, the most power you have in any negotiation is saying no. And it's been hard for us at times to say no to money, but the brands come back and the opportunities come back. And so if I can spend a whole year doing deals at $10,000, you make twice as much money than doing deals at $5,000. And a lot of YouTubers are missing out on twice as much.
And even if you're just starting out, consider this. You can even have opportunities, even like as few views as like 5 to 10,000 views per video, right? Even if you're not like a huge subscribed channel, because there's a lot of brands outside of the obvious. There's a lot of businesses, even local businesses, you know, like, you know, I even equate a trade deal to a brand sponsorship. Don't assume you're not worth some kind of sponsorship, right? And in the beginning, of course, I was talking about a trade. You'd be surprised how soon you could actually be talking about dollars. But that's why it's so important to go back to how we started this whole video, which is have quality content, right? Have an engaged audience and have a specific niche audience so you know where your value is. So whether you're talking about doubling your sponsorship from $5,000 to $10,000 or even asking for money in the first place. The way I actually got into this whole business, Judy was on the phone, my wife, and she was doing beauty videos, always got free makeup, and one day somebody just offered her money, right?
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like, what? Give me this phone. And they're offering her $50 for a sponsored video, right? And I think back then she was like at 50,000 subscribers. Easily worth $50. Now this is the funny thing. I was presenting this, right? Like I doubled it by asking for 100. Now the silly thing
is,
I thought it was a man, but we know a lot more about what we're doing now. It was worth a lot more. But the point is, I knew even early on that she was worth more than what they were offering, right? So just keep that in mind if you know about these three things, right? Like quality content, engaged audience, which means that like they trust you, they're commenting, they're really following what you're doing, as well as like it's a specific type of content with a specific niche audience, that you'll be surprised how quickly you can get a sponsorship.
Yeah, and the key is to make each sponsorship build on each other to show your value.
Yes.
When people reach out to us about deals, I'll send them my last 5 deals. And I'll say, here's the average views we're getting on our brand deals. Yep. We connect it with the best thumbnails and titles. And look at the engagement. And we're setting ourselves apart in that way.
Yes.
Because we're showing we have a proven model. And here's the method we use. And again, I mean, this should go without saying too, but I should say it. We only do brands and products we honestly would share with our friends.
Yep.
And that prevents so much backlash for us. Because it doesn't feel like a commercial to people because we are just sharing the stuff we like we do in our normal videos. And so all of those things are another big piece of this, is you understanding your own parameters of what you will and won't do. It took us a year to really measure that out though. We made mistakes all along the way. I'm still making mistakes in negotiating different terms and stuff. This is the Wild West. We're all trying to figure it out. But getting help along the way is important too,
Yeah, which great segue to tip number 4. I don't know where we're at with tips
Tip
and stuff.
7.
Yeah. Having someone else help you with these brand deals, right? Getting these sponsorships. Obviously, one of the ways you do it is you can work with an agency. Some people might have an MCN.
Or a manager.
Or a manager. How I started this was, again, I would represent Judy because Judy didn't want to. There's a lot of you watching this that might realize, the whole negotiating thing, the whole like reaching out to brands isn't what I want to do, because you're probably already busy creating content, right? So there's something about somebody else representing you, speaking on your behalf on the phone, right? It doesn't even have to be official manager. Maybe have just a business friend that's a little bit more savvy when it comes to negotiations, that could represent you, that could speak on your behalf. Sure. And again, like we're gonna go to the ultimate representation, right? The legal representation. And I can tell you, just a disclosure, I don't work with Jeremy for my legal.
You are responsible.
Yeah.
For my law firm. That's another story.
But I've always had legal representation. That's done so much for me in terms of protecting my value. Obviously, reading contracts, but in the when it's all said and done, help me to get the best rate possible for my channel. How you suggest other people working with representation?
Sure. The reason I blame Benji, he knew that I was an attorney and doing all of the YouTube deals for me and friends of mine who are YouTubers, and he was like, you need to set up a law firm for YouTubers. And that phone call and us talking about that, we did, we started Johnston Law. Me and my brother are representing YouTubers. And we've been very blessed. We represent some of the biggest YouTubers in the world. And we're also doing deals for people who are brand new in it. And what's powerful about having that help is it gives you validation about your value. You're not just guessing. And then we negotiate on your behalf. And typically we're getting thousands of dollars more,
if not
for a lot of our clients. And again, as a disclosure, as an attorney, it's like, I can't promise the same thing will happen to you. I don't represent you. But we're having that experience right now. And I think it's because being a YouTuber, I understand that piece of it as well, and I'm having that experience. And so offering that and dealing with the agencies and brands, we're not just guessing, we're knowingly helping.
And again, especially when you're starting out, right? If you can connect with someone like Jeremy early on, you're not just guessing what your value is. Jeremy's going to be able to tell you, or other people like him, agents, managers that are in this industry, what other people are charging or have charged when they were at your level. Definitely, we'll put the link down for Johnston's Law.
Johnston Law.
Johnston's Law down below. Yeah. We'll put the link below. Is there anything you want to talk about in terms of, you know, like them reaching out to you, and your last thoughts on landing sponsorships and getting the highest rate possible?
I mean, for people coming to us, we're trying to put on Johnston Law also blog posts that address a lot of these basic things that early YouTubers would want to know about.
Yeah.
And we would love for people to check it out. You know, we actually just wrote a whole blog post series covering negotiating brand deals that goes into a lot more depth of all of this.
Absolutely. Well, you guys, you saw it. Comment below. What are the brands that you've worked with, and some of the tips and tricks that you have for other creators? Some of the best comments and some of the best tips are from you right down below. So thank you so much for watching. Remember, here on Video Influencers, helping build your influence, income, and impact with online videos. Talk to you later.